I'm David Holt, the mayor of Oklahoma City. If you were to stand on this spot 60 years ago, near the corner of Robinson and Main in downtown Oklahoma City, you would have been standing outside the front door of Katz Drug Store. The building is long gone. Katz Drug Store is long gone too. But something happened at this corner 60 years ago that lingers. Something that changed the course of history here in Oklahoma City and across the nation. In 1958 in Oklahoma City, people of color were still openly treated as if they were invisible. One such example was the fact that an African American couldn't eat lunch at the counter of a Katz Drug Store. This indignity was representative of all the many ways African Americans were dehumanized in Oklahoma City. In August of 1958, Clara Luper, a 35-year-old Oklahoma City school teacher, decided she was no longer willing to accept these injustices. In the months before her history-altering decision, Clara had taken a group to New York City, made up of members of the Oklahoma City NAACP Youth Council. As Clara would say, a little bit of freedom is a dangerous thing, and the group tasted freedom on that trip. They ate at lunch counters in northern states and wondered why they could not experience that back in Oklahoma City. And so, if you had been standing here 60 years ago, on August 19th, 1958, you would have watched Clara Luper walk through the doors of Katz, joined by a handful of other adult chaperones and about a dozen young people ranging from ages 6 to 17. They were on a mission to do something that every white person in OKC took for granted. They were determined to eat at the lunch counter at Katz. 3 years after the murder of Emmett Till, in an Oklahoma still dominated by segregation and Jim Crow, this simple act was not welcomed with applause or awards or videos by the mayor. In fact, it was a dangerous mission, and it required remarkable courage. This lunch counter at the Oklahoma History Center recreates the counter at Katz Drug Store. Clara Luper and her group became very familiar with this counter because they were not served that day 60 years ago, and so they continued to sit, becoming pioneers of a protest tactic known as a sit-in. Regardless of insults or threats of violence, they would not respond because they had been trained in nonviolent protest. And they sat until Katz Drug finally changed their policies and served the group. Eating a hamburger at the lunch counter was no trivial thing. As Clara would say, within that hamburger was the whole essence of democracy. The group would tell their success to other activists from other parts of the country. In 1960, in Greensboro, North Carolina, a group of civil rights activists inspired by Clara Luper and her young sit-inners held their own sit-in. Soon others followed, and the sit-in became a key element of the civil rights movement of the 1960s. That movement in turn led to a lot more change than just who could eat at a lunch counter, though it did that too. In 1964, the Oklahoma City Council passed an ordinance banning racial discrimination at any establishment serving food. But across Oklahoma City and across the nation, much needed change came in all aspects of life. Though what happened in Oklahoma City on August 19, 1958 helped ignite a movement that altered the course of American history, Clara Luper did not end her efforts at Katz Drug Store. She continued to lead civil rights protests across Oklahoma City for many years to come. She was ultimately arrested 26 times. She marched on Washington. She marched in Selma. Upon her death in 2011, the New York Times called her a seminal figure in the sit-ins of the civil rights movement. Northeast 23rd Street in Oklahoma City is known as Clara Luper Corridor. This is certainly merited, but I would submit that the weight of history demands more. As we commemorate the 60th anniversary of the Katz sit-in, I encourage everyone in Oklahoma City to celebrate the incredible achievements that were sparked on August 19, 1958, the positive effect it had on Oklahoma City, and the inspiration it gave to civil rights activists around the nation. The story of Clara Luper and her young activists is one that should be told as long as we tell the stories of courageous pioneers. As we move beyond this important anniversary, I will stand ready to work with interested people to permanently commemorate the site of the 1958 sit-in. It is long past time that this hallowed ground speak to us. And I will pray that the courageous actions of August 19, 1958 continue to inspire us in Oklahoma City to stand each day for a more just society.